It's safe to say that Rifujin, the author of Mushoku Tensei, is one of the most controversial figures in manga, light novel, and anime, mainly around the idea of the adaptation of Mushoku Tensei and how many controversial subjects that it has in it. But for most fans of this series, we all know that Rifujin himself doesn't really care about a lot of the feedback. A lot of the people trying to cancel him, trying to get at him in some way, he often likes to kind of kick back and say, look, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. But over my years of covering the Mushoku Tensei series and going into light novel series, a lot of people have kind of pointed out different series that have sort of inspired Rifujin in different ways. I'm always very cautious whenever I try to say that something inspired Mushoku Tensei or inspired some sort of work, just because it typically gives a lot of ownership to the previous work. I've had people say Remonster inspired Mushoku Tensei. No, it just inspired him to post his stuff. And yes, I was even told here recently that a certain series, Familiar Zero, inspired him as well. Which gets us to here recently, a thread made by Rifujin way back in 2016 has resurfaced. People have brought it back to the surface, even so far that here recently he decided to respond to a lot of love that was coming to some of the selections that he made. But this thread back in 2016 was where he was kind of addressing a lot of things that have inspired his writing. The way that he chooses to write his novels, his characters and whatnot. Yes, one of them being the fact that apparently Familiar Zero has inspired him in some way, but it's a really interesting read. I used some machine translation in order to translate this because Google Translate wasn't doing too well, and I decided to kind of check a couple different translations to get an idea of what exactly he's saying to each of these series. So if you're interested in Rifujin or Mushoku Tensei and interested to see what kind of molded his characters, let's dive into it. The first post says, show the works or things you reference or are influenced by when creating novels or illustrations. For each like received. It was kind of a hashtag idea they had a while back, and he's kind of doing his own. So yes, the first one that comes up. My beloved Familiar Zero. Familiar Zero, this work taught me that you should advance the story by at least one plot point in the first volume, first episode. I have fond memories of telling my friends in high school, the Familiar Zero really moves the story forward. But they didn't quite get it. I get this. I'm going to reference Mushoku Tensei a lot because this was actually posted in 2016 and that was his major piece of work at the time. So I'm going to reference that a lot as we talk about this. But yes, this is something that was kind of the hook that Mushoku Tensei had. It moves very quickly right off the bat, kind of gets you into the mood of things. And yes, I absolutely adore Familiar Zero, so I definitely give him a lot of props for this one. This one was kind of a shock to me, and I should have seen this coming, and that's Bakemonogatari. This work taught me that if there's something interesting written in every line, you eagerly anticipate the next. If you could write something interesting in every single line, it would become legendary. Whether that's possible is another matter. This is something that's very difficult, and I fully agree with him here. Whether it's possible. That's the major question mark there, because you want to write something interesting. You want to keep people moving. Even when I'm doing my videos, in a lot of cases, I'm always thinking about, is it keeping people's attention? Is it keeping people's attention? People have short attention spans, so you have to constantly be doing something to keep their attention. So I can definitely see him having the same thing here. And I get that with the Monogatari series. Every single line, I'm always waiting for the next line. I'm waiting for the next thing that comes up. What is he going to do next? What is the character going to do next? What's the next big reveal? That's always the case with the Monogatari series. And I do see that a lot with his works as well, where it does seem like he's trying to at least keep the plot moving, keep it moving to the next thing. But I think it goes in conflict with some other stuff that he'll talk about later, where it does feel like he wants to keep things kind of settled down. And the difficulty in sort of trying to give that sense of the characters sort of having a slice of life moment, Rudius having a slice of life moment, does go in conflict with the idea of trying to keep things interesting. And I think he tries to offset that by having Rudius be quirky. Let's just say quirky. The Cat's Globe. This work showed me that the fast-paced battle scenes are possible even in novels. I've always been bad at reading battle scenes in written media, but the author's writing in this work is different. I've reread it many times, trying to imitate it. This is one of the few in this list that I have never heard of before, ? I want to say that I may have seen it, but I don't think I've ever actually looked into it. This is one that I may have to go check out, just based on the fact that this is something that sort of inspired him. Pulp Fiction. Even in Japan, yes, Pulp Fiction. This work taught me that it's okay to kill off a main character, destroy the sense of security that this person will definitely not die, when invariably shock and create tension in the audience, and that tension highlights the scenes that follow. Super interesting pick there. And yes, technically Pulp Fiction in general is a very unpredictable film. Like, it is an absolutely unpredictable film. It's been a long time since I watched it, but it is extremely unpredictable. And that, I think, is a lot of the appeal to it. The idea that they just didn't hold anything back. Things just kind of happened. Apanman. If you read Mushoku Tensei and you do not get that he has a lot of inspiration of Apanman, you're crazy. He references it a lot. He references it a lot. This work taught me the wonderfulness of something that anyone, young or old, can read. You tend to forget it when you read a lot of books, but for those with little reading experience, unreadable writing styles definitely exist. I want to aim for a writing style that even beginners can easily understand. Now, this is something that's going to sort of be lost for a lot of people, especially in the West. People that are not familiar with a lot of the culture and writing and novels in Japan. I mean, the whole idea of light novel itself. It is the idea of writing something that is easy to read, because Japan does have very advanced writing methods. And it's very difficult for people to read those. It's not that the Japan is dumb or anything like that. That's not what he's meaning here. And it doesn't mean that he's trying to write Mushoku Tensei for kids to read. It's the idea of making a general public able to read his writing style, because there is some complexity to Japanese writing where it gets really, really advanced. And it's stuff that most people don't utilize. So that's what he's really talking about here. He wants to make sure the characters and whatnot are general public people actually learn in school and whatnot, and will actually utilize. So he wants as many people as possible to read it. Now here, yes, it is sort of playing in the idea of this being something like all ages type of story and humor and whatnot, but I think that's sort of what he's getting at right here, which is cool, which is very cool. And again, that is sort of what plays into the concept of light novels. It's not a novel in Japan, which is going to have more advanced characters. It is a light novel. It's easy to consume. It's much more simpler. And yes, it's quicker to pick up and put down. There's a lot of aspects to light novels themselves. Accel World. Another one that I think I knew about. I think I knew about this one. This work taught me that the flow of the story can be standard, especially when the world building is complex. It's better to have an ordinary but easy to understand storyline than to twist it in a confusing way. Very interesting way to put that. And unfortunately, I never finished Accel World. I wanted to go back to it and actually watch it again and maybe check out the source material, but this is definitely one that I've dropped. But I get what he's saying here in regards to, again, Mushoku Tensei and the idea of trying to have it as simple as possible while having the complexities. I think that he's not giving himself enough credit. I think he does have complexity, though I do admit that there's a lot of times whenever I'm reading the novel series that I overcomplicate it. I had a habit when I was reading through the Mushoku Tensei series to overcomplicate everything, and it's much simpler. Not to say that it's dumb and not well wrote, it's just it's not super complex to the point where it's just pompous. He's not a pompous writer. He doesn't try to make himself sound super complicated just to sound smart. That kind of stuff. And I do appreciate that. I think that his writing it's simply complicated. It's simply complicated. I think that's the best way to put it. This is one that I've heard several times, but yes, Hoshi no Samadere, which is Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer. I absolutely love this author, and I'm so looking forward to actually reading this one. I dropped the anime. The anime was not a good adaptation, so I've been trying to get some time to go back and read the manga because I do like this writer. This work taught me that growth is change. If something changes, you start to act slightly different than before, and those actions create new paths. Even if it's in a bad direction, it's still growth. If that ain't so many characters in Mushoku Tensei, I don't know what is. I like this. It's okay for a character in a story to advance in a way that's not good. To advance in a way that most people feel is bad. That is a wrong direction. As long as you make it make sense to the character themselves. If the reader can understand why they choose that path, it's okay. It's okay. I like that. And yes, this series, as much as I've actually watched it, definitely was going in that realm of the gray area. Is it right to go down this path? One Punch Man! Again, another one that he references quite a bit in the novel series. This work taught me that if you set the protagonist as the strongest, the theme of the story should be something other than who is the strongest. So well put. And that's technically what makes One Punch Man so great, is the idea that it's not so much about is he great? Is he strong? How strong is he? It's more about everything around him. It's about what's going on. You already know that he can one-punch things. That's a joke. We get it. And that's, again, something that I've seen present in Mushoku Tensei, or at least his works in Rifujin, is this idea that it's not so much that Rudeus himself becomes overpowered. He does have an element of himself and his mana pool, but that's really the only thing that kind of makes him special. And so it is about a lot of things around him. And yeah, even though later on in the series, what it's going to get into does sort of incorporate the idea of having individuals surrounding Rudeus that are extremely powerful. Extremely powerful individuals. I mean, you see it with the whole idea of the 7 great powers. This idea of these 7 individuals that are insanely powerful. And Rudeus meets one of them, the Dragon God. Guess what we've seen there? when he was going through that mountain range, what do we see? Rajerd, who is supposed to be incredibly powerful, just gets bammed. Like, Rajerd was extremely powerful, and he just got slammed down like nothing. There's incredibly powerful characters in this world, much more powerful than Rudius. And so it does give that sense of, like, what then? What then? Let's get into something else. What then? Number 9. Sorry for the censorship. I had to put a bunch of blocks on here. It's not this bad. It already had some on it, but yeah, I had to cover it up a little bit. Konya no Sikorsky. This work taught me that even nonsensical words gain persuasive power and elicit a subtle laugh when you assert them with conviction, like deru, or it is. Yeah, I get that. The idea of, yeah, even if it's like an absurd moment, like the character says something stupid or absurd, as long as they, like, claim it. I think that's what he's basically saying. As long as they own it, they own that word. I think he's talking about Edis. I'm sorry. I literally think he's talking about Edis. Edis is the type that will say something absurd, but then she stands proud. She stands it. She owns it. She stands there with her usual pose, her signature pose. Yep, this. There was a case that I ran into that recently with Edis. Was this idea of how she just says something so absurd, and the character sitting next to her is just kind of like, I guess, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, she said it so clearly and with conviction, it makes sense. She's convinced. Melty Blood and other fighting games in general. Interesting. This work taught me what effort is. In things where you compete against others, there might be some shortcuts or tricks, but you can't become the strongest with just those. Are you cheesing? Rifujin, are you a cheeser? try to wall capture somebody or something like that. Yeah, I get it. Yes, Harem and the Labyrinth and Another World is on the list too. This is a model, or rather the model, of how to write a novel if you're reading it on a web browser where horizontal writing is the default. I think I kind of understand this. And that's, for those that don't know, the Japanese writing is going to go up, down, and then to the left. It's basically backwards, like in both ways to English. And so that technically does make sense when you have a browser. How it's laid out is it does this. It's going the opposite direction. And so I'm guessing what he means is how it's flowing. And you're going through a browser, you're scrolling up, you're seeing how it flows, how the text flows, how each of the sentences probably flows. That's what I assume he's sort of talking about here, because I believe this is also a web novel series. So interesting. Beware of the peach-colored dense fog. This work taught me that even if the heroine is cliche, if the protagonist is insane, a strange chemical reaction occurs and it becomes interesting. It's a waste to make the protagonist a man with no distinguishing features. Don't make your protagonist bland. Don't make him self-inserts. Don't make him plain as dirt. Make your main character interesting. Make them have flaws. Make them be weird. Give them relatability. Give them dirtiness to them. Give them some damn flaws. That's really what I read right here. People, don't make your main character just this blank protagonist. There's plenty of those isekais, and guess what? None of them are successful. Yeah, they get plenty of views. People like those, turn off your brain, watch it types of shows. But if you're looking to do some good storytelling, get some scars on your character. Give him some scars. Jeez. Love it. Soko Aki Muramasa. This work showed me that battle scenes aren't necessarily always better when they're full of speed. The tension of reading each other while standing still, the feeling of being defeated or defeating with a single move, and the internal conflicts are battle scenes that shine, especially in written media. Yeah, I see this a lot. I see this a lot in his works. I see this a lot. There's quite a few, especially when it comes to swords fighters in Mushoku Tensei. They'd like to just have them sit there and wait for who's going to move. Because with sword fighters in Mushoku Tensei, they're all about, like, in a lot of cases, especially Sword God style, they're all about that first strike. That first strike has to end it. It's built to end it. It is built to end it. And so it's interesting with a lot of the fight scenes with, especially Sword God style, it's a lot of tension. A lot of tension and reading each other. Rance. Should have seen this coming. Should have seen this coming. Knew I was going to see this coming. And again, I think he's referenced this in Mushoku Tensei as well. This series has an overwhelmingly absurd world. It's interesting because things that seem like jokes are deeply involved in the story. And the protagonist seriously does things that you would normally think are absolutely wrong. The first part, let's go. The second part's pretty obvious, but the first part is interesting because I think there is quite a few things that do sort of give you a hint of that's kind of absurd in the world of Mushoku Tensei. The idea that you wouldn't think it works like this, but it actually works like that. So I definitely see what he's talking about there, and the idea of world building and it having some concept to it that you shouldn't think should be natural, but it is actually natural and it actually fits and there's actually lore behind it. There was especially a certain character that I won't spoil, but there's a certain character where it's like, this character's nuts. But then at some point you realize, oh, the character makes sense. It makes sense. It makes sense why the character's like this. It's super cool. There's a lot of characters like that, actually. In Mushoku Tensei, there's a lot of characters where they're absurd, but then at some point you realize there's a logic behind it. But yes, the second part, of course, this is Rudius. Does things that normally think are absolutely wrong. That's Rudius. That's Rudius. And that's what makes the character so interesting. It's Rudius. And yes, what is he? Rudius being a Rance character. Muv Luv series. This was super cool. I absolutely love the Muv Luv fandom. And again, that was what technically Rifujin himself kind of responded to, because especially the Muramasa tweet and the Muv Luv tweet, those two people were quoting like crazy. The Muv Luv fans came out of nowhere saying, holy crap, this came back up. He's a Muv Luv fan. This is crazy cool. Yeah, there you go. This work taught me that if you want to inflict despair and shock, it's better to depict the everyday life for a long time beforehand. I think the more happily you depict the everyday, the greater the shock when it's lost. Yeah, and even anime-onlys experience this. Rifujin likes to do this, kind of give this little breathing moment where there's nothing really happening. We've finished something, something's completed, we need a break. We have a break. That was a whole like university segment of the anime, of Mushoku Tensei, is let's have a breathing moment. Let's get comfortable, get settled. Then what happens? He gets a letter. It's from Geese. Hey guy, having a little trouble over here. Having a little trouble here, boss. And then suddenly his world's flipped. Now I have to go off the Begret continent. Should I go to the Begret continent? That question mark comes up. Yeah, I can see this. You literally have to set something up to be lost is really what it is. And finally, the last one that he lists is Solidary Gourmet. This work helped me understand that slightly strange writing can be more memorable. It's unrelated, but I think the opposite of my stomach is completely empty is my stomach is totally full. I'm guessing what he means here is he's sort of overplaying, or at least making the opposite of what an empty is be, again, something more strange. He's making it more strange because there's a couple of translations that I put this through, and some of them are kind of giving a little bit more oomph to how he's saying my belly's full. It's full kind of thing. So it's making a little quirk there is what I'm guessing he's doing there. I can sort of see this in a lot of ways, making sort of quirks to the writing itself, changing it up, mixing it up, different perspectives that he usually does sort of do that. But yeah, his last post in it was, once you notice something like this, when you make similar discoveries in other works, it turns into a kind of confirmation bias. Ah, this is the same as that work. So this kind of thing is definitely interesting. That's why I can't write 200 of these, he says as an excuse before going to bed. I'm kind of curious how many likes he actually got before this kind of went quiet. And then again, it's kind of being brought back up now. I'm kind of curious how many likes he actually got back then and how far he was actually going to go. It doesn't seem like the original post still has much attention to it. Like, even though this has come back again, and again, it's technically because a lot of people are, quoting and liking the other ones, the ones that are specific shows that he's talking about. But either way, it's super cool. Again, like I said earlier, this is all about kind of seeing what sort of makes Rifujin tick, what sort of inspires his way of writing. And again, it's not so much to say that Mushoku Tensei would not exist without Muv Luv. It's not to say that Mushoku Tensei would not exist without Familiar Zero. It's more of an idea of saying, okay, like I was kind of going through with each of these, kind of showing how you can see signs of that in his writing, that it inspired him to write his character this way or that way. But really cool, really cool. I like getting this little insight into what makes Rifujin tick, because obviously I've been covering his content for quite a while now, really enjoying the novel series, just finished the mainline series, and I absolutely adore how he doesn't hold things back. That's always been the kind of the draw to Rifujin, is not holding things back. Even though we do have the whole controversy with how the second season was kind of being adjusted a little bit, he does sort of bend a little bit there, but his whole mindset there was in order to kind of make it more broad, more people kind of accept it. And that was what he's really going for. Not so much that he censored himself, but more the idea of just trying to bring in more people. That's the big thing there. So yeah, that's my thoughts on this little thread. I had a few people that was DMing me and asking me my opinion on it, so thought I'd kind of finally look at this thread after being given it a long time ago, like I said, for the Familiar Zero. But I hope you guys enjoy my thoughts on this. If you did, hit the like button down below, comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. If you like this content, you want to push on more, links in the description below. Greatly appreciate it. But until next time, y'all take care.